I'm Stanley, Stephen M. Stanley. I go by Steve. I'm a paleontologist. I'm still not retired. I'm still active. I'm still writing and doing research. How did I get into paleontology? Well, I didn't like fossils. I thought they were old dead things. But I took a biology course and the theme was evolution. I got excited about evolution and I was majoring in geology, but I realized I could study evolution by way of the fossil record. And so we call it macroevolution, large-scale evolution. And that's how I got into paleontology. My book, T-Rex, Darwin Adventures Out West, it's about a group of students, and I write in the first person. I'm one of the students in the book. Well, they take a course in geology their first semester, and they have a laboratory Friday afternoon. After the lab, they go to a place, they happen to go to a place to have a drink. They do it every Friday then, after the lab. And they do it for the rest of their college career, and they become a group. And they have all sorts of, well, they have adventures out west, and they have also their life on the campus. And it's about their history and what happens with them. They end up hunting for dinosaurs with an expert in the West, and then on their own, and they find the biggest T-Rex skull ever discovered. And then it becomes a mystery story. But there are lots of other aspects to it, and it takes them all the way through their college. And then I come back and we get together at a 10th reunion at the college, and we find out what's happened to everybody since college. And there's some surprises. But I have tragedy in the book and humor all the way through it, and many different sort of subplots along the way. And I had a wonderful time writing it. The thing about writing a novel is you can write anything you want. I'm used to writing nonfiction, but writing fiction was interesting. There are two things I have to do to make my work accessible to non-scientists. One is to choose topics that will interest them. For example, in the book, I have a variety of scientific stories that I tell. One is how we know dinosaurs were warm-blooded. And there are a whole bunch of reasons. They're very interesting. I also have I talk about how dogs, there are all sorts of dog varieties, many different breeds of dogs, from Chihuahuas to Great Danes and St. Bernards. Cats all look the same. People don't know why. I can tell them why. It's because dogs have a few genes that control all these shapes they have. Just a few genes. And so it's easy to breed them in ways that give you all sorts of varieties. Cats don't have those sorts of genes. An average cat, a home cat, a house cat, looks remarkably like a lion or a tiger in general body form. Even the cats in nature all look the same because they don't have the genes that produce quite a variety of shapes. So I have things like that I think will interest people in the book that relate to their everyday lives sometimes. Or I also, everybody's interested in T-Rex. It's their favorite dinosaur, so I can't go wrong with that. What group of people would like my book best? I think it could appeal to people of all ages. 10-year-olds would like it because of dinosaurs, but they'll be too young to read it. But I don't think that there's any one demographic that it would attract to in particular. I use students to tell these stories about science. There are also things they learn about other areas that they talk about. They decide early on they're going to educate each other outside the classroom. And they'll learn things in courses other students didn't learn. And they agreed they would give little talks to each other through the years to educate each other. And so I am, in the book, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be a science writer. And I record a lot of their talks, and they go into the book. I ask them first if I can do that. And in a couple of cases, I give them credit for it. But the ideas are all mine. It's all my writing, but I give them credit for all my ideas as we go through. But that's a way in which I include science in the book. And it doesn't really, I have the narrative all the way through. That these things just appear here and there through the book in short passages, sometimes a whole chapter. I love to write, and I'd like to write in ways that appeal to people. And when I took on this challenge, it's a new challenge for me. And so I want it to be a success. I've done well with other books I've written on nonfiction topics, but it's just a new challenge I'd like to succeed at. It took me a long time to become a good writer. I actually have attention deficit disorder. I have ADHD. I was a hyperactive kid. Nobody knew it back then. And it was hard for me to deal with the language. When I went in the 7th grade, I went to a private school. We read 4 books in English, 4 novels. I didn't know what was in them when I read them. I didn't know what was in them after I read them because my reading comprehension was so poor. But I got better with the language. And I love the English language. I love to write. But I had to develop slowly over the years. And I got where I am today. I was a good athlete. And that meant a lot to me when I was growing up. I was a major soccer player. I was the captain of my team and received the Most Valuable Player Award in school. And at the athletic banquet, our coach said that more than one opposing coach asked if I was a ringer from Europe. So I was really, and I was also on the best swim team in the state, and I also was the quarter miler on the track team. So I really loved sports, and I achieved there when I was young, when it was important to me. I like to do outside landscaping. I'm kind of an amateur landscape architect. I like to design outside spaces. I can just look in an area and see what to do. It's just something I seem to be good at. And I like to get my hands in the soil and plant things. But I've also built patios and walkways and made places more attractive. I'm a somewhat artistic person. In addition to being a science, I've always liked to do art projects. And that's been also an avenue of success for me. Oh, I think the most important thing to me was my undergraduate thesis at Princeton. My advisor was on sabbatical. I had no advisor. And it was sink or swim. I had to just figure out a thesis for myself. And I worked on the Key Largo limestone, a beautiful coral reef rock of the Florida Keys. And I had some interesting new ideas about it in my thesis. I published my thesis eventually. But it was, and we gave oral presentations. And one of the graduate students who came to them said to me, "You've done better research without an advisor than most of the graduate students are doing in this department." I just was having fun, but I learned I could do research then. And when I went to graduate school, I wasn't arrogant, but I was just self-confident I could do research. There are other very bright students with me who'd just been memorizers. And they had a hard time getting into research, but for me it was just like falling off a log because it was just natural. I'd already gotten there as an undergraduate. That was the most important thing, I think, of my career that made a big difference to me. Also, I took a course in mineralogy. The mineralogy professor thought I was a stupid student because I couldn't find a place to study freshman year, and I failed freshman calculus. I couldn't get started in calculus. I'd never had a background for it. And so I was on probation after my freshman year. This guy looked at that, this professor, and thought I couldn't go into economic geology, which I wanted to do, study ore deposits. You can't do that, forget it. I took his mineralogy course. I got a 1+ in it, which was like an A+. And a good student got bad grades in it. But that course also was a terribly important thing for me because suddenly I was put in a pedestal. His course had tests that didn't require a lot of memorization. I wasn't good memorizing. You had to figure things out. There were questions about things you'd never seen before. And I just got them all right. and suddenly my life changed. And that was a tremendously important thing for me. Suddenly I was a different person after that. I was at Johns Hopkins for 36 years and then University of Hawaii for 14 years. And I'm back here in Baltimore again. There was a major event. It really was a historical event in the field of geology when I was an undergraduate at Princeton. The chair of our department invented plate tectonics. This was the biggest new concept of the 20th century. It's the notion that the Earth crust and part of the mantle below it form plates that move around against each other. They form mountains. They also go down into the mantle along deep sea trenches. Everything is in motion, about as fast as your fingernails grow. And people hadn't believed in this kind of thing before. They just thought that continents had to move against oceanic crust. They couldn't do it. He showed, well, the crust is moving too, everything is moving. And he gave us 2 lectures when I was an undergrad, my senior year. He gave us 2 lectures that just convinced us that this was valid. It was amazing. He had all these reasons, all these examples of things that they just converged on this idea. And we all came with a second lecture and said, yeah, we heard about this before the rest of the world heard about it. It was amazing. We've all said that was the most remarkable experience of our academic careers from first grade on. It was just amazing. We were there when he invented this field. Well, Who's Who has put my name out there and things. They've given me awards and publicity I wouldn't have expected. That it's helped my career, certainly. It's been a benefit to me, definitely. It means that people can look up about you and see what you've done. It's sometimes hard to do that. You can look at someone's curriculum vitae, but it's not always easy to disentangle that. It's a thing that people can go to learn what your history is, and if they want to write something about you or include you in something, it means they can identify you. They know what you're all about, and it's very helpful.